Greeting everyone from every time zone. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our most recent project that is called Welcome to Ultaki, harnessing large language model for simulating human behavior in the energy transition. Let me kick things off with a brief overview. We are currently grappling with some significant climate-related challenges. Specifically, they are centered around the imperative shift to clean energy. But in this scope, there are multiple issues to contend with. Primarily, the ever-rising demand for energy is a challenging scenario, in particular when coupled with the susceptibility to extreme weather conditions. Despite our best effort to reduce carbon emissions, the current pace is not commensurate with the best commitments of the Paris Agreement. And as such, the energy transition, it requires significant and substantial financial investment, further complicating matters. Lastly, a key complexity that we cannot afford to underestimate is the unpredictable and non-linear nature of human behavior, which significantly impacts the transition and is actually one of its main drivers. A key aspect in this energy transition is the concept of smart grid. Essentially, a smart grid is a flexible, adaptable system architecture that is designed to integrate seamlessly with renewable energy. That's very interesting, and the primary objective of this integration is to optimize power distribution and enhance the overall sustainability of the system we are considering right now. However, transitioning to smart grid also brings a series of challenges. Indeed, one of the main concerns with renewable energy in the context of smart grid is the issue of intermittency. That is, we have to deal with the unpredictability of renewable as a consistent and controllable energy source that contrasts strongly with current fossil fuels main energy sources. And in this scope, this necessitates careful regulation of supply and demand to ensure balance at all times. Furthermore, we have also the fact that smart grids are networks and they may introduce some vulnerability that can pose additional challenges. All of this context emphasizes the need for accurate behavior modeling, because given all of these factors, we need to be able to correctly dimension and predict the energy demand that will happen so that we are able to anticipate any unforeseen and undesirable effects. Overall, what it means is that the reaction of consumers to this condition and the consequently triggered fluctuation in the energy demand can significantly impact the overall operation of the smart grid system. In this scope, what we propose is to use large language model to explore and try to accurately model the human behavior, which, as I mentioned, is of the utmost importance in the scope of the energy transition. Behavior modeling is of pivotal importance both in the energy transition but also abroad. And as such, it is a topic of immense importance that has been largely explored, and there is a significant body of work that accompanies this field. Among the most notable approaches in this body of work are the conventionally modeled approaches, such as using cellular automata system or differential equations. In this scope, what we try to do is to identify the key environmental interactions and subsequently model their drivers and comprehend how different variables of the system or within the population respond to some of the system shifts. More recently, and maybe more focused and targeted on human behavior, the significant shift toward more advanced and complex method has enabled us to use social computing within human community studies. Specifically, what it means is that we, through the availability of social network like Facebook or Twitter, now X, there has been an abundance of data that has also influenced the field in how modeling of human behavior can be approached. Even more recently, recent progress in natural language processing and the emergence of large language models have underscored their capacity to make significant contribution in the realm of human behavior. In particular, their remarkable generalization abilities can be harnessed through prompting, and as such, we can construct alternate strategies to understand to deepen our understanding of human behavior and enhance our social simulations. In particular, we can cite and refer to the significant and pivotal work from Park in 2023 that introduced Smallville, a city that is only populated with large language models with different background stories, and we were able to witness plausible and emergent behaviors that suggest that indeed large language model can play an interesting role in human modeling and exploration of the influence of human behavior on various systems. In their work, they refer to specific components that made their progress possible. For instance, the fact that they use memories can enable agents to devise plans, and specifically our own methodologies that we underline and we present in this work operate on the hypothesis that this framework can be extended to cater the field of energy policies. In this scope, our work primarily focuses on the innovative use of the large language model technology to mimic personas from diverse scope and diverse background. Concretely, we refer to the 2016 US election demographic profiles to design and imagine a set of characters. Specifically, this involves using the Pew Research Center to construct a variety of characters, each of them with their unique life stories and backgrounds. In this scope, the goal is to determine how these personalities, and each representing an assortment of societal profiles, would potentially react to diverse events. This allows us to go to not only the legitimacy of the response, but also to identify the distinctiveness of each person's reaction. To do so, beyond utilizing the research center demographics for simulating human, we also factor in several events to engage with these agents. Specifically, these events vary in terms of relevance, ranging from personal banter to environmental and energy-related discussions. Some examples of these events are personal conversation, similar to the casual discussion one might have with a hairdresser. Others are related to more localized themes, such as a local radio shows discussing recent happening or hosting guest interviews. And finally, we also represent the global context by including newspaper editorial or significant news events. Our intent behind presenting these very diverse events is to examine how these discussions influence the agent's viewpoint and environmental sensitivity. For instance, a light-hearted, personal conversation wouldn't necessarily alter the agent's perspective significantly, especially if unrelated to energy topics. However, conversely, a discussion centered around politically charged or contentious topic may call for a response from the agent. And as such, having established the need for diversified agents, let's now transition to the next segment, which pertains to the experiment we designed. Our experiment endeavors to analyze various facets of the large language model in their simulation of human behavior. And in this scope, our primary goals are as follows. We want to assess the plausibility of the response generated by these models. We want to evaluate the extent to which the presented prompts influence the generated responses. And finally, we want also to examine the role and impact of higher order dynamics, which in our case means to implicitly include memories within the models, within the prompts and the models. Diving right into our first experiment, we investigated the individual's reaction to sequential series of events simulated by the large language model. In this experiment, a group of virtual agents went through the same course of 10 predefined events. And there we meticulously tracked their response and ratings over time to observe the diversity and unique path they embodied as to their environmental sensitivity. If we glance at the figure, it becomes apparent that the response pattern exhibited substantial differences among the studied agents. Every agent had a unique start and endpoint. However, we still identified some shared trends among the agents with a similar demographic identifier. For instance, in this particular figure, agents representing Democrats exhibited a close-knit response pattern Likewise, we observed overlapping patterns among agents depicting evangelical Republican or libertarian anarchists. These variants suggest a significant influence of the background settings and narratives on the agent within the program sequence of events. Our next experiment focuses on who makes the environmental sensitivity evaluation. That is, we assessed the performance of an agent designed to mimic human behavior in a specific scenario, and from there, the agent functions by evaluating its own environmental sensitivity score and consequently adjusting its environmental sensitivity. This allows us to observe how effectively it adapts and whether its environmental awareness increases or decreases over time. And the interesting thing here is that this evaluation process can be performed in two ways. Either it is a self-evaluation, so the agent rates itself, or it can be externally judged by a third-party observer, that is another agent that is prompted differently. In this experiment, we compare these two assessment methods and we notice some distinct differences, though they are not extensive. The thing is that the resulting scores varied based on who conducted the evaluation, whether the agent itself or the external entity. And that's intriguing to observe because I think it would be worthwhile to further investigate and quantify the severity of these divergences, because it can definitely have an impact on the trust that is given to these methods. Then, as previously discussed, we considered experiments based on the way we prompted the agent. As you, I'm sure, are well aware, the method of prompting an AI agent is critically influenced on both the evaluation of the agent and their comprehension of the given situation. This concept aligns with our central theme, that is, and what I mentioned earlier, that is, the mere alteration of a few words in the prompt should not skew excessively the outcome. Because if so, we can raise legitimate trust issues. So this concern also has significant influences regarding the incorporation of second-order dynamics. As I mentioned also earlier, simulation of complex model and population dynamics involves having agent react in single-step manners. So that happens a lot in, for instance, cellular automata, or when you design a system through differential equation. When you want to encompass second-order dynamics, you have a steep increase in the complexity of the system, and thus it's not trivial to do. And in this scope, in our study, we wanted to explore the effect of these second-order dynamics through enhancing the agent context prompt with its memory. So with the previous steps it went through, this implicitly simulates higher-order dynamics because we have a memory of what happened before. And so it's easier to enrich the prompt of the agent than to come up with a similar approach in a differential equation, which is way more arduous. And as you can see, we have when we observe the agent reaction to past experience, we confirm that having access to memory enhances environmental sensitivity. However, because of the technical scope, there are some nuances that cannot be understated. Because, for instance, the way we would structure the prompt, for instance, if we had the background story of the character background story at the top, maybe if we have too many memories in between, we may lose and overshadow the psychological traits of the agent. So there is a whole scope of system design that cannot be understated or ignored in this scope. Finally, we considered and investigated a multi-agent scenario. Specifically, what we wanted was to move on from the independent and siloed operation that we had before, and consider that each agent's actions will have a wider and global change. Specifically, we look at a simplified configuration where all of the agents we previously defined and that were evaluated coexist in a city. They may represent a larger collective, but they are all residue of this well-defined environment. In this scope, they share a residency, and each agent's actions and sensitivity have ripple effects, as I mentioned, that can also have an impact and influence on other agents. The mechanism we chose to represent this impact is a predefined threshold. When an agent's environmental sensitivity moves, it moves the global environmental sensitivity score, so the average of all scores, up or down. And whenever this environmental sensitivity average crosses a threshold, it triggers what we term a traumatic event. For instance, those can be blackouts or, for instance, also increased energy prices. The crux of our experiment is to ascertain if these agents, when exposed to the traumatic event, modify their behavior. And in this scenario, every agent lives in the same city and experiences unique events, so they do not share the events like they were before. But when the traumatic events happen, they all receive a trigger, so they all share the same traumatic event, and we compare different trajectories in which the agent have access to these traumatic events or not. And as you can see on the figure, we observe a distinct global trajectories and individual trajectories when the traumatic event is present, which means that there is some legitimacy in envisioning multi-agent systems with events that concern everyone, or as also suggested by Park in their study. In conclusion, we delved into how large language models can simulate human behavior, particularly in the realm of energy transition and energy management. Indeed, this study was illuminating, and it has given us hope and motivation to further push this approach. One of the main reasons is that this approach holds tremendous potential for impacting and revolutionizing maybe various domains in the industry. It has the capacity to shape a lot of things, including energy transition and going up to societal resilience. However, this is also a preliminary work because we can't really lose sight of the limitations. Our research indicated a striking sensitivity to prompting, and that may be also that may be related to the fact that we use GPT 3.5, but that because we did this work a few months back. So with improved model and potentially fine-tuned model that would be fine-tuned maybe on specific data. We might be able to offer a more robust and faithful representation of behavior and less sensitivity to prompting. Finally, we were also successful in eliciting a myriad of diverse opinions, demonstrating that large-scale language models have the capacity to capture the intricate nature of human behavior. But as the saying goes, every coin has two sides. Since also, as I mentioned, we were using OpenAI's model, we likely encountered bias because of the stage of reinforcement learning through human feedback fine-tuning. In this fine-tuning stage, controversial topics such as climate transition or having dangerous thoughts or generating text that is not desirable is discouraged through the use of reinforcement learning and a penalizing reward. And in this scope, this may lead to complicate. It's harder to be able to simulate individuals that do have and do share these views. It would be possible to jailbreak or maybe find a way to prompt the model back to ensure that it is able to simulate this kind of person, but that would have maybe ripple effect on the experiment itself, because the prompt would be different from the other models. Anyway, just as it brings promised enhancement, this approach also brings with it complex challenges which require addressing. So we have only just begun to delve into this consideration. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed this talk, and I'd like to express my sincere gratitude for the board's comprehension as to me sending a video. Thank you very much for your attentive participation, and I hope you have a great conference. Thank you very much.